The Oklahoma Sooners add another big-time commitment in the 2024 class. We'll talk about that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Gametime. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy Josh Helmer is still not with me. He'll be back next week off in New York with his now fiance. I don't know if you saw the news, but our boy Josh Helmer got engaged this past week. So congrats to him and to Amanda. We're so excited for you here on Locked On Sooners. But another reason to be excited, the Oklahoma Sooners added another big-time commitment, this time along the offensive line in the 2024 cycle. Eddy Pierre-Louis coming to Oklahoma, the Tampa Catholic product, joining former teammate Lewis Carter, linebacker that was a part of the 2023 signing class. This is a big win for Bill Bedenbaugh, Brent Venables, the Oklahoma Sooners, a guy who was heavily coveted across the country. We heard rumblings that a team like Oregon had gotten into the mix for EPL, UCF, obviously the local school that was heavily involved in his recruitment as well. But he had a list of offers that was a mile long. And for the Oklahoma Sooners, who maybe had a little bit of bad press this past week based on the Caden Green transfer portal decision, whether you considered that a slight or you had some negative feelings towards the offensive line coach for the Oklahoma Sooners, this has to redeem some of those things. I'm of the mind that you never should have had any negative feelings towards Bill Bedenbaugh because his track record speaks for itself. But this is a huge win for him. You saw in the commitment video, you saw Bill Bedenbaugh and how excited he was to get this one in the commitment video that Eddy Pierre-Louis released. But it's huge, man. You get one of the most athletic players in this class, pound for pound. Not just offensive linemen, but just straight up one of the most athletic people in this class. You get him. He's a legit guard. He's not some guy that's a tackle that you're going to have to pitch and hole into guard because you need him. No, he's a dude that could be a first-round pick as a guard, and that's highly coveted. You got to have that interior offensive line play to keep your quarterback clean, give him an opportunity to step up into the pocket. You can't allow guys to bull rush those guards into the backfield to take away the quarterback's throwing space, to take away his platform and make things a lot more difficult for him. So it's a huge pickup, man. The dude is ready to play. Now, will he be able to come in and take a job right away? I'm never going to have that expectation for a true freshman. Could it happen? 100%. Is it possible? Absolutely. But anytime you start creating those kind of expectations that a true freshman is going to start day one, you could potentially leave yourself disappointed. But he's got the size to come in and do it. And given that this is a kid that's got the athleticism, got the size, the physicality, it's going to give him a great chance to come in and be an impact player right away. Even if it's not 2024 in which he makes an impact, he's going to be an impactful player for the Sooners at some point in his career because he is a really, really good player. If you haven't seen the video, the dude ran a sub 100 meter dash in track last year. He posted the video last summer. So this is from the spring, and he benches 400 pounds like it was nobody's business. He's strong. He's fast. He's athletic. He's quick. I mean, this is a really, really good offensive guard prospect. And as you continue to kind of build your offensive line for the SEC, this is the exact type of player you need. Someone who's got the size and has got the physicality, but is going to have the athleticism to still do everything that you want to do along the perimeter. If you want to pull him out into space, no problem. If you want to run him straight ahead, no problem. If you want to combo block him and then get him to the second level, he's going to have the athleticism to do that with a lot of grace and a lot of tenacity and a lot of physicality because he's that athletic. So a big time pickup. The Oklahoma Sooners offensive line is looking really, really nice going into the 2024 signing class, projected guys that they're going to add. I mean, okay, it may not have the 5-star Jordan Seaton as a part of it, but look at these guys, man. They're really intriguing prospects with a lot of really intriguing offers across the country, whether it's Josh Isosa out of Edmond or Isaiah Autry out of Mississippi, the Oklahoma Sooner, connected Isaiah Autry, a guy that a lot of people forget about because he didn't do the camp circuit, a little bit under the radar, but potentially could be a big time factor in this recruiting class as well. And then you're looking at Daniel Akinkumi, the London product, a dude who, I mean, he's got people already raving about his potential and his athleticism. And I mean, he's coming out of the NFL Academy where, yeah, there's top level coaching and there's top level development. And so the sky is really the limit for that kid. And then you got Eugene Brooks, another really impressive guard prospect that's going to give you an opportunity to just have really great depth along your offensive line. You got 5 guys that could be future starters for this team, and you're going to get a chance to develop them and build them up and make them into the offensive line that you want to be. Yeah, the offensive line losses that you've suffered in the transfer portal, they're real, and you have to kind of deal with that on the fly. But going forward, going into the future, looking at 2024 and beyond, EPL plus the rest of the offensive linemen that you've added commitments to, now you got to get them signed, but projected players that you're adding to the 2024 class, man, absolutely huge. Huge for the Sooners, huge for Bill Bedenbaugh. Couldn't be happier. This is one of the guys that, okay, I hadn't been as vocal about, but secretly was really, really hoping Oklahoma would get because of his physicality, his athleticism, and his ability just to play straight up guard. And I know, tackle is one of the money 5 positions in the NFL. It's the one that, all the kids want to play. It's all the rage, right? But man, if you could be a Zach Martin type, or you can be, one of those guys that is just a great guard, that makes so much of a difference. A lot of times it can be a game-changing position to have a great guard on your team. It can fly under the radar because center snaps the ball all the time. They always have the ball. And tackle is that money 5, high profile position, always going up against the other team's best pass rushers. But dude, if you don't have good guard play, it makes a lot of things a lot more difficult, especially running the football. I know it's a passing game now. You got to be able to throw the football, and that's why that edge protection is so important. But if you can't run up the gut and you can't gain a yard on 3rd and 4th and 1, or you can't run for 4 yards or 5 yards to carry, man, you're just making your life so much more difficult. Adding a dude like Eddy Pierre-Louis, huge for the Sooners. 4-star prospect and the number 1 guard prospect according to Rivals. So big win for the Sooners on the recruiting trail. And I mean, the early signing period is just around the corner now. And so a lot to look forward for Oklahoma. They've got 27 players committed to their 2024 signing class. And man, I'd be hard pressed to imagine anybody decommitting at this point. We had the Dozie Ezukanma decommitment, but man, that was a deep and loaded wide receiver class that he was a part of. So it's not surprising to see a little bit of change of heart from one of the wide receivers. Because again, they had 5 guys committed to the class, and all 5 of those guys were really, really good players. So I can understand why you might decide to change directions on your college future. Got a couple more returns for the Sooners that came down on Thursday and Friday. We'll talk about those coming up here after the break. And now I want to talk to you about Gametime. It is the best place to get last minute tickets at the lowest prices. If you're looking for Alamo Bowl tickets, a lot of great options for you right now on the Gametime app. Go download it in your app store or Google Play Store. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. If you've ever been searching for those last minute tickets and it's just been that struggle, it's a frustrating experience because you couldn't find a ticket or there were no good deals. Well, you don't have to worry about that now because you can go to Gametime. It's fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can get them for the Alamo Bowl. If you're still just trying to decide about making that trip down to San Antonio for Oklahoma versus Arizona, go to Gametime, see what your options are. Again, go download the Gametime app in your app store or Google Play Store. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And thank you again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. We are a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and you can go watch the Locked On Sports streaming channel on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. But on YouTube, it is 24/7. It's the first ever 24/7 streaming sports channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, covering the top stories of the day with local experts on Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The Oklahoma Sooners got two big returns on Thursday and Friday. Dejon Terry and Jacob Lacey making the decision to return to the Oklahoma Sooners for the 2024 season. And dude, it's huge. I mean, no pun intended, but getting these guys back along your defensive line, it is big time. Now, you can go look at the stats. You can go look at the raw numbers, and you're not going to see a lot of tackles for loss. But the things that Oklahoma had to do well this year, get better in the run game, and for much of the season, they were better. Get better on third and fourth down, they were better. A lot of it is because of the play of your interior defensive line. These two guys included. Dejon Terry in particular was a big part of why you were so good on the goal line, so good in short yardage. It's because teams didn't have anywhere to go. There was nowhere to go up the middle. And so they were forced to try to go off tackle or go wide or throw a screen pass wide because he took everything away. He and the interior defensive line, they just beat guys in short yardage. I mean, go back to that Texas game and just watch what Dejon Terry does on the goal line stand where Texas had 4 chances from the 1 and couldn't get in. He was absolutely phenomenal for the Sooners this year. It was a great big time, great transfer portal pickup by Todd Bates and Brent Venables this last offseason. So getting him back, continuing to develop his game, and same with Jacob Lacey, continuing to work with them in the strength and conditioning department with Jerry Schmidt, and continuing to work on their game and getting pushed by some young prospects, Grayson Halton, Ashton Sanders, Marcus Strong, and then that defensive line class that's coming in 2024. I mean, there's an opportunity these guys are going to be able to take their games to newer heights. You're expected to lose Isaiah Coe and Jordan Kelly. Well, having 2 veterans back at defensive tackle is going to help to bring along your young defensive line group. At the same time, you're getting 2 players back that were pretty good. Jacob Lacey led the defensive line rotation in snaps, and Dejon Terry was arguably the most impactful defensive tackle that you had this season. And so, man, it's good news for the defense that they're getting all these guys back and returning. You cannot discredit the experience that they have and that they're bringing to the table. And obviously, the play speaks for itself. A lot of the reason the linebackers were able to be as effective as they were either in the run game or on the pass rush was because the defensive tackles were doing their jobs. And sometimes that job doesn't create a lot of stats, and sometimes that job doesn't get a lot of glory, but it pops on film when they're holding up their blocks. They're not allowing the interior offensive line to get to the second level and cut off the linebackers or prevent them from, getting into the backfield. So, don't undersell the importance of Jacob Lacey and Dejon Terry coming back, because you just want as much depth as possible, and having guys that are veterans to be able to, build on and build upon as you go into the SEC, it's huge for the Sooners. And I mean, maybe David Stone or Jaden Jackson come in and play right away. Maybe not, but either way, you're going to have a very nice floor for your defensive line group or your defensive tackle group, even if those guys aren't able to play right away. But what's next for the Oklahoma Sooners? I mean, this is a team that is heading towards another top 10 class. The early signing period is just around the corner. And again, of the guys that are committed right now, the 27 of them, I see no reason why you're not going to get all 27 signed. What else is happening? Well, Brent Venables and Todd Bates just went and took a visit to Dominic McKinley to try and get him to flip from Texas A&M. Now, McKinley has stated he's not going to sign until the February National Signing Day, but you're getting an opportunity to go back into that recruitment and make a dent and potentially make an impression that could land you another 5-star defensive tackle for your 2024 signing class. This is a group that is going to be incredibly impactful on both sides of the football. The quarterbacks, Michael Hawkins and Brendan Zerberg, obviously the running backs in Taylor Tatum, Xavier Robinson, Andy Bass, the wide receiver crew in Ivan Carrion and Zion Kearney and Zion Reagans and KJ Daniels is looking great. And then you can't leave out Davin Mitchell. And I think a few people, are mistaking my expectations. I do believe that Davin Mitchell is going to be a great player, but it's like I said with EPL, I'm not necessarily going to bank on a true freshman coming in and either being a starter or being a great player year one. It's a big learning curve. Could it happen? 100%. Davin Mitchell could come in and take that tight end spot and just be off to the races. But it could take him a year to get his feet underneath him. You hear, if you didn't listen to what Caden Helms and Gentry Williams talked about on one of the recent podcasts making the rounds, is they talked about just the learning curve that they had to undergo because the game is just so much more complicated at the collegiate level than it was at the high school level. And that might not be true for everybody, but it is you can make a generalization at least that, okay, the communication steps up, the complication steps up, the schemes step up, and the talent base steps up. The physicality steps up. Even if you're playing at the premier high school program at your collegiate or at your high school or in your state, you're still not going up against Power 5 talent every week. You're still not going up against some of the best coaches in the country every single week. And that's why the transition can be a little bit more challenging, is because you're going up against the best of the best. Like, think of all the best high school players in your state. Not all of them got Power 5 offers or landed Power 5 scholarships, but a lot of them did. But you're going up against all of the best players every single week. So it's understandable that there could be a learning curve for true freshmen coming into college and not being able to make a significant impact right away. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. That just means that there's a transition period that takes place, and that's okay. So let's be patient. Let's take our time. And then the other thing that's next, man, we got the Alamo Bowl. And I cannot tell you how excited I am for this game. I know, it's bowl season, and a lot of these bowl games, you're just like, why are we even playing these bowls? Why do we have 6-6 teams in bowl games? There's too many bowl games. Well, this is one that I'm excited about. Would it have been better if Oklahoma was in a Cotton Bowl? Sure. Playoff, yeah, I'm down with that. But we get to see Jackson Arnold in 2 weeks' time. We get to see what Seth Luttrell looks like as a play caller. Now, it's not going to be completely his offense because they're trying to keep it as much the same as possible with Jeff Lebby, as they're just trying to adjust to life without Jeff Lebby in the 4 weeks leading up to the bowl game. But we're going to get a chance to see probably Josh Bates, friend of the show, Josh Bates, at center for the Sooners in the Alamo Bowl. So a lot of opportunity to see some of the young talent that's going to be taking over for the Sooners in 2024 and beyond. So, man, I'm pumped for that. And I think it's going to be a great, great challenge. And much like last year was, right? Last year, I don't think anybody knew what to expect out of Oklahoma versus Florida State. But, man, it turned out that Florida State team was really, really good. And that carried over into 2023 for both teams. Both teams turned out to be really, really good. They were better. They improved on their records. So could this game be similar? Could Oklahoma go in and face an Arizona team that only lost 3 games in overtime to Mississippi State in overtime to USC and then by a touchdown to Washington, who's playing in the college football playoff? Could this Arizona team and how Oklahoma performs in that game, could that kind of set the stage for what Oklahoma is going to be in 2024? Maybe. We won't draw too many conclusions because we also drew a lot of conclusions coming out of the Alamo Bowl in 2021. And then we saw what Oklahoma did in 2022. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Follow myself on Twitter at John9Williams, my buddy Josh at Josh on Ref. The show is at Locked On Sooners as well. And we'll be back to touch on whatever else goes down over the weekend. Josh will be back with us next week to help get you ready for the Alamo Bowl, touch on all the big transfer portal news and offseason happenings for the Oklahoma Sooners. But until next time, I'm John Williams, Boomer Sooner.